I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Yes, please go ahead.
My name is Bhaskaran. I'm a 50-year-old friend of, I have been friends with Arunachalam for nearly 51 years. I just wanted to describe Arunachalam as a catalyst. He has played an important role in the lives of several people I know by being a catalyst in connecting them to great people and enjoying the progress that they make. So Leslie Chan said that he's a great human being and makes connections. It's very true. Much more than open access, Arunachalam creates access to human beings to many. There are many stories. I have no time. I just wanted to wish him all the best on his 80th birthday. And we are old friends. Thank you very much.
Madam, can I just speak for a minute, please?
Yes,
this
please.
is Professor Lakshman Rao from Hyderabad. First of all, let me thank Professor Subbaya Arunachalam Garu. He is working on open access for a long time, and we all learned a lot of things from him. And especially this session has helped me to learn the latest things that are happening in the open access. But as Professor Subbaya Arunachalam raised the ONOS, I also feel that it is not possible in this country because of the big country. But however, I feel there is no relationship actually between OA and OS. Could Subbaya Arunachalam Garu give some hint about relationship between these two and what will be the future of OA and OS?
You mean one nation, one subscription?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. The idea is, instead of each institution subscribing and paying a lot of money to publishers, some agency, probably a government agency, will pay for a huge sum. It won't be the sum of all the subscriptions, but a small part of it, and make it available to everybody online. This is the idea.
Is it possible in India, sir? That is what my question.
No, I am telling you, I am absolutely against such an idea. The idea is to throw away money to commercial publishers. We should give the commercial publishers a hand. The one nation, one subscription will give a lot of money to commercial publishers. The idea is not to give them the money. There are other methods by which all this knowledge can be made available, like the physicists have already been doing through the archives. There are so many other ways of doing. So that's the idea.
So, is there any question that anyone would like to ask on the issues to our speaker?
I'd like to ask a question, if you may permit me.
Yes, please go
Professor
ahead.
Arun, it's been a wonderful honor to be at this event. This is Shadi, and thanks to IISc for organizing this wonderful event. My question to Professor Arun is, he mentioned that he hasn't achieved much, although he has been very modest. But what is he likely to do in the next phase of his life? Now that he has completed 80 years, he has many more years to go. Where would the focus be, Professor Arun? Thank you.
Professor Arunachalam, do you hear the question?
Shadi didn't ask any question. He was just wishing me well for the rest of my life.
He was even also asking now what you will do, what next.
Okay. No, I never plan for anything. Things come along and I just plunge in. That's the way I do. So
you may enlighten us, like, what is the next, if you already have figured it out?
Okay, the next is, I haven't been traveling for the past few years because of the minor health issues. But now I want to resume my activities. I want to come to our center and spend at least a couple of weeks in the beginning. And if it works out, I'll resume coming every month. That's what I want to do, and carry on with my work on scientometrics, open access, and unfortunately, we are not doing much work on development research there, but maybe we should start some.
Oh, sure.
Like,
Thanks.
like Leslie had connected his interest in open access and development work. I mean, I was so amazed. I didn't know about the work that he does with indigenous communities in Hawaii and other places. And maybe I should sit with him one day and learn.
Yeah, and also actually in some time we will invite, this is Dr. Rajesh Tandon of Priya as well, who is a co-author of Professor Chen. So maybe you will get to meet him there as well on the same type of work. I think there is one more hand raise. So it's Vibhodh again. But if I missed.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, this is Vibhodh Parthasarthi from Jamia Millia in Delhi. Arun and I shared some board positions together, and I think this is a really great evening to sort of not just felicitate him, but around these three wonderful talks here. My question, of course, and any of the panelists could address this, is that somehow the open access sort of publications discussions always tend to end up being discussions about publications in the sciences. Yeah, and I'm wondering, are there any impediments to extend this this entire practice or sensibility toward the social sciences? Yeah, I mean, why don't we see such a buzz on open access in the social sciences? Yeah, I'm a social scientist, but that's why I guess I'm posing this question. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Professor Arunachalam, we will take this question.
No, Leslie is a social scientist. Leslie is a social scientist, and he has been doing quite a bit of it in the field. So, Leslie, please.
Yeah, I would say that a lot of the innovation actually came from the social sciences and the humanities. And if you look at platforms like Humanities Commons, it's common infrastructures built for and by scholars in the humanities. And then you have the open libraries of humanities, great models of supporting journals by library subscription. So to answer the question about subscription, rediverting our money from the library, why not? If libraries are willing to spend money, it's just that why give it to the commercial publisher? Give it to the scholarly publishers to help them build open access. And the beautiful model about the Open Library of Humanities model is that they only need X number of library to subscribe to underwrite the cost of production, and then the rest of the world get open access to that same content, right? So those who can pay for everybody else, so to speak. And most libraries from the global north have lots of money to pay subscription. Why not pay it into a common pool rather than paying them to the publishers? So the social scientists, humanities have been very active in this space, I would say. Yeah.
And Heather is not even a scientist by training, if I'm right. And she has been doing a wonderful job all through. She has run two major societies, the Astronomical Society journals. She has done some biological society journals, and now she is managing Spark without formal training in science. So, I mean, she should be able to answer your question now.
I completely agree with Leslie that there has been a lot of progress in the open access movement driven from the social science and humanities community. I would say sometimes it doesn't get as much attention as life sciences and physical sciences does, mainly because the most expensive journals tend to be in the physical and life sciences, and the affordability issues tend to be not quite as it gets less attention than quite possibly it should, but there is a lot of activity. And in the slide that I talked about the kinds of models that we want the community, and we want to rally our community to support, what Leslie described collective cooperative models where pools of libraries and institutions create sort of at scale funds to be able to support models are the examples that he gave, the Open Library of Humanities, the Modern Language Association's large platform as well. Those are exactly the kinds of things that I think are actually leading the way for how physical and life sciences can think about addressing, and they have their roots in the social sciences and humanity.
I also share a link in the chat box of a Latin American initiative called Amalika. Again, hundreds of journals banding together to provide open access collectively. And so I would encourage you, look, again, many of them supported by social science councils in Latin America.
Yeah, actually, last year's Open Access Week, we had speakers, Dr. Dominic Babini and also, I forget her name just now, it's just, so we have this wonderful lecture by them, what they are doing. So anyone interested can go to our website and see last year's lecture. It is really interesting. And even we today had Professor Gudo with us for some time as well. He gave another lecture last week during our Open Access Week. But now I think, yeah, Professor Abhinandanan has a question. Abhi, please.
Yeah. So it's interesting that the Latin American efforts have come up in the discussion. So my question is, what is it that prevents that kind of efforts from diffusing out into the rest of the world? If they have succeeded in doing certain things the right way, at least according to the community that is interested in open access. So what is it that others can do to either replicate that kind of efforts, or even asking them to come and help us with that sort of stuff? What is it that we need to do? Is it the government, or is it the scientific community which is which needs to get involved in this activity? Your thoughts, any of the panelists? Yeah.
Okay, both Leslie and John Wilinski of Stanford are working closely with the Latin Americans for a very long time. And Leslie started with Bioline, and later on he moved into some advisory positions there. And Wilinski started with his software, which is being used by Sciolo and other journals in Latin America. And they know very well about the situation there. And in fact, we invited the two specialists from Latin America last year with this idea of seeking their help to help spread the message in India. But you and I asking them means nothing. The journal editors, the funders meaning Government of India and so on. But the Government of India seems to be more thinking in terms of plan years and one nation, one subscription, and not in terms of outrun proper journals, you see. That's the problem here. So the problem is not with how to get them, but how to convince our own agencies here to go in the right direction.
Yeah, so if I may jump in, I think it goes back to Professor Balaram's diagnosis of this addiction to prestige. And I think there's this bias against your own journals, your own local journals. If you publish in the New Delhi Journal of Medicine, it's not seen as prestigious as the New England Journal of Medicine, even though both of them are regional journals, but one is highly regarded and the other one isn't. So I think you have to change the mindset. That's part of my underlying themes about opening science from below, that you have to respect your own system. I think that's what the Latin Americans have done, that is strengthening their own and respecting their own system rather than, putting their eggs in somebody else's reputation basket. So I think that's the change of mindset.
Thank you.
Yeah. I see also some more hand raised. So again, who wants to go first? I think Satyatarana, he has not, he wanted to ask something. Will you go ahead?
Satya, you are muted.
Spotlighting when I have a don't do.
You are muted now.
You are still muted, Satya, please. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, now you can.
Am I audible now?
Yes,
Yes,
you are.
yes.
Okay. As an admirer of Arun for a long time, I wanted to greet him on this occasion of very, befittingly felicitating him through this program. As Professor Balaram said, Arun is really a tireless crusader of open access movement in India with global impact. And he has been an inspiration to us to be open and bold. When I say open and bold, I still remember one of his earliest articles on is Indian science mediocre, which created a lot of controversies. But the kind of journalistic ethics he followed as a science journalist is something remarkable. And as Mr. Bhaskar said, he has been catalyzing librarians, which is deep and kind of a natural flair for information science. And Arun, we all really enjoy your writing and speaking. And my best wishes to you. And I greet, I wish you a good health. And certainly we all look forward to you getting back more actively into, encouraging people. And talking about OA movement, which is something I'm quite passionate about. I think we are now more than 2 decades with the OA movement. In terms of achievement, it has created a very strong and deep spread of advocacy all over the world. And as a benefit, a significant part of currently published literature is becoming, getting into OA within 1 to 2 years, almost about 55%. But a lot needs to be done. But what is disappointing is even after 2 decades, we are still struggling to come out with a sustainable business model. I don't know when it will happen. My thoughts go back to Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, when I heard Leslie Chan mentioned about Gandhi in a context. I think there is a big relevance of bringing Gandhi here, which I had mentioned on another occasion. When Gandhi returned from South Africa to India on his way, he thought that he must find a way to communicate to people across the country about the need for about the freedom movement he was going to launch. He came with a good preparation, and the famous book he wrote in the ship is a book called Hind Swaraj in Gujarati, and he also translated into an English version Indian Home Rule. Now Gandhi as an author is a very good model for the authors of the scientific world, contributing mountains of paper. What Gandhi did in those days, somewhere in 1932 or something, when he published this book, he put a very nice statement: all rights unreserved. It's just the opposite of what we see in all the books, copyrighted, all rights reserved. Now, if in the open access movement so far has has been focusing a lot on publishers and particularly the publishers' greed. Yes, that's understandable. But I really wish that the movement focuses on changing the minds of authors, emboldening authors to follow what Gandhi did several years ago, more than a century ago. Will this happen? I strongly feel that the strategy of open access movement, its time shifts from publishers to authors and making authors feel more responsible to make their content available. And it's just an open thinking. I thought of putting it across. It's time we really take authors into confidence and come out with some business model that can really become sustainable. Thank you.
Okay, I think I see another hand raised from Sadashivan KP. If he wants to speak.
Yeah. I'm slightly deviating from the professional open access, open source discussion. I was really enjoying the warmth of Professor Arunachalam and Professor Leslie Chan together again in this forum. I recollect the great days when they together came down to Trivandrum, and we had a fantastic 2-3 days here, giving 2-3 lectures in Triple ITMB Trivandrum, in the CSIR laboratory Trivandrum, and in the Kerala University. And my humble wish to Professor Arunachalam is that he has to continue enlightening us, connecting professionals, and consolidating his great memories. I had the privilege of enjoying a great amount of his memories in different occasions when we were together in some program or the other. So I wish him great days ahead, and we hope we all will be enriched by his wisdom in the years to come. Thank you.
That's wonderful. But there is only one hand raised from Mr. Bhaskar, and I think that it could be the last one because it's already quite late. So, Bhaskar.
Do you hear me? I'm not sure I heard you.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. The question that I want to ask of everybody here, including the speakers and the audience, is that there is a certain nobility to open access and open source and open science. But as soon as the nobility puts out a first version of it, a commercial interest is able to completely take it over and make it its own. Okay, so how does science function in a way that a commercial interest cannot actually make it its own? I mean, in today's talks, I've given Leslie Chan, a professor, has given hundreds of examples of that, and we all have lived through those examples. In our lives, even as a poor man, or as a rich man, or as a privileged researcher, or as a poor farmer, we've all lived through the crisis of knowledge and knowledge sharing. Okay, how do you make sure that we can arrive at a policy and a platform that is also nationalistic, that today demands, every country demands that it be nationalistic? Okay. And how do we actually come to an implementation strategy, not a philosophical conundrum, but an implementation strategy that ensures that private commercial operators do not take that strategy and completely run away with it, many examples of which have been cited in all of these talks in today's session itself. Thank you so much for even allowing me to ask this question.
Okay, please, any of the speakers or Professor Arun, anyone, please. Professor Chen, would you like to take this question up?
Yeah. Again, I think it has a lot to do with mindset, right? And so, if you again speak to some of my indigenous colleagues, they will remind us that the notion of property is a fairly recent human invention, especially intellectual property, right? Who owns the air that we breathe and who owns the trees that is in the forest? I think we have somehow allowed a system to define ownership that are completely arbitrary and fictitious. And I think is a really cultural shift that we have to say, well, as a society, not just for the scholars themselves about their output, but as a society, should we, make sure that these common goods are there for the people, and that the government's role is to make sure those common goods are available to everybody, not those who have the financial resources to get them. So it's not just a question about open access to scholarship. It's about the kind of society that we want to see ourselves living in, right? So it's a broader framing, I would think. So if we get more people involved in this discussion, I think we'll be better off, not just the academics themselves.
Okay, I think there are more hand raised coming. So Ratnakar, sir, will you take the last question? Maybe this one. You are on mute, sir. Ratnakar, you are on mute.
Dr. Ratnakar. Dr. Ratnakar.
You are on mute. Dr. Ratnakar, you are on mute. Yeah, now it's unmute.
Now.
No, again mute.
I think something going wrong.
No, you are, now we can hear you. Now we can hear you.
My association with Arun is for over 50 years. When I was a student at what was then known as IISc. And since then, we have been closely associated with many things. I am still, when I retired, just a librarian at the Raman Research Institute, Bangalore. And Arun moved from Delhi for a few years to Indian Academy of Sciences when our friendship became more close. And we have worked on many projects. I was not a great scientist or something, nor a great information scientist, but my thing was to provide information to people, scientists who were working at the Raman Research Institute, which spread across later on to other places. Arun and I met many a times on many issues and have discussed things which have not been published anywhere. The greatness of Arun is that he doesn't talk about his own work much, but others are allowed to talk about it. His zeal and his intention of bringing open access to India is known across the world. And it was great that he brought people like Eugene and others to India. And through them, I had a chance to meet all of them way back when I was working at Raman Institute. And Arun is an example for those who think that they do not have much to give. But he shows them a way how they can contribute to the society. It's not necessary that you must be a great scientist or great philosopher, but all that is required is your intention to help others and do your best for them. I wish Arun all the best, and we've been in close touch even now, and I only hope that Arun lives a healthier life. I know how he is. Not many people know it. In spite of that, his zeal for open access is admirable. Okay, Arun, it is so great that people in Bangalore had a chance to talk to you and share their views with you, and people like Leslie and others came here. And I wish all the best to you in the coming years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ratnakar. It's wonderful. I think it's now time to end this session because it's already late. So I will ask my co-moderator, Dr. Janice, to say the final thank you note.
Thank you, Momita, and thank you, everyone. It's indeed not just a learning experience, but also very touching to see how all the associates and friends of Professor Arunachalam are here this evening. And like we say, all good things come to an end, and it's time to draw curtains on today's open access discussion. I'm extremely grateful to our resourceful panelists, Professor Balaram, Heather Joseph, and Professor Leslie Chan for their excellent presentations and thought-provoking take on open access. And of course, the icing on the cake were the thoughts of Professor Arunachalam. I would also like to thank Professor Abhinandan, who is the coordinator of the Center for Policy Research at IISc, for his guidance and encouragement. Thanks to our Open Access Week team members, especially Mr. Madan Muthu and Mr. Gunashekaran, who are long-time associates of Professor Arunachalam. I would also like to extend my sincere gratitude to Dr. Anand Bhairappa and Dr. Francis Jayakant from IISc Library for their support. Finally, I would like to conclude this session by thanking all of you, highly participatory audience, for making this session worth every minute. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening and a wonderful weekend ahead.